Today we're going to be taking a brief look at this 2022 Jeep Wagoneer and this 2023 Chevy Suburban 1500 LT. And both of these vehicles have history that they can stand on, and they're both desirable, I believe, in the American market. But just off-site or on-site is what I should have called the title of this video. I'm going to go with the Suburban just because it has a more consistent history, whereas this one has heritage in the Wagoneer that came out, I think, in the 70s that continued until like 92, 93. Like, it was great in the 70s and early 80s, but they really didn't change it. And so the second half of its life was very, very old school. I think this might be a heritage cash grab, and this is just going to be solid. I don't think either one's bad. Again, I'm going to side with the Suburban. So we'll start with that one. Looks-wise, you know, I would say it's a tie. I mean, the Jeep is very handsome. The Suburban's very handsome. In time, I think they'll both hold up equally as good. This guy is not rocking too big a tire. We're looking at 18s here, which is fine. You know, you don't have indicators in the mirror. That's okay. It's a large SUV. You're going to know it's coming down the road. But we'll step to the back. This is a very traditional design. Stepping in back, I mean, this is your classic Chevrolet GM design here. We'll go ahead and pop this tailgate. So, I mean, this is a 3-row SUV, and this has a good amount of space back here. I'm liking this. This is not like an extended model either. So let's check out the Wagoneer while we're back here. Also a very handsome vehicle. Its tailgate kind of comes out a little bit wider, so yeah, you don't get as much behind the third row. So points to the Suburban. This one looks a little bit more squared off and kind of wrap around. But I prefer the rear end of the Suburban, but this is not a bad looking vehicle. Looking at the wheels on this Wagoneer, and that could be a trim thing. I mean, this thing is rocking massive 22-inch wheels, so it wins in the wheels department, but this is not a bad vehicle. Like, if you really like Jeep products or you're familiar with them, I will say this: the direction that the parent company of Jeep is going in is not great. They're trying to eke out as much profit, which all companies do, but I feel like there's a pride with the Suburban, you know, with American makes and their SUVs. There's a pride there that, you know, I don't think GM's willing to give up. You can see separation here. So this is not kind of tucked in. I don't know, they might have hit something, but there's a little panel gap there. So I don't know. Stepping around this vehicle, again, the tires look better. You do have indicators in the turn signals. So, you know, a lot of times, like, looks will get you looking at a vehicle, you know, and intrigued, but is there substance there? All right, so looking under the hood of these vehicles, you have a 5.3 liter V8 putting out 355 horsepower and I think 383 pound-feet of torque. I'll put the specs in the description. This does have a 10-speed automatic transmission, so that was like jointly developed with Ford. And I've actually driven a Suburban. We went to Boston back in, I think, 2022, and with family, and we rented a Suburban, and it drove extremely well. It had the 5.3 liter V8, plenty of power, get up and go. You know, it is a massive vehicle, but it just felt easy to maneuver. I like this engine. I don't, you know, it's still going to have modern electronics to it, but I think it'll be reliable. Pretty standard affair for this class size. This Jeep has a 5.7 liter V8, which puts out 392 horsepower and 404 pound-feet of torque. It is a mild hybrid system, so it's a little bit more complicated. I'm not sure what the breakdown is with that, but I mean, I like that it's a V8 and it's not turbocharged. I like that the battery is right there. I like that the airbox is right there. I'm going to trust Chevy more in this field because, one, this is just more complicated. You do get a little bit more power, but I don't really care about that. I mean, the Chevy layout is simple as well. You have your airbox right here, or excuse me, right there. And then I think they did something funky with the battery, so close these lids. So that one's kind of light. And I will say the Suburban feels a little bit more solid with the doors and everything like that. Not that the Wagoneer feels cheap, but it's targeted to be a little bit more luxurious than like a standard large SUV. Maybe not quite a Denali, but as you can see, this one has cameras on the side. So you basically have 360 cameras. You can get those on the Suburban, but I feel like the LT is a pretty standard model. But again, the Wagoneer, when you watch the commercials and stuff, it is targeted more towards a luxury audience. All right, so neither one of these vehicles have automatic running boards, but entry and exit for the Suburban is not going to be a problem. There is a little bit of a step up, but I will say that this plate right here feels pretty solid. I love the Chevrolet stamp right there. Hopping in, you know, like I said, there is a little bit of a step up, and these seats are flat and they're like a faux leather, but they feel pretty good. Like they're a good balance between cushion and firmness, I would say. You have your map pocket here. You have your controls back here. This is a 2023, so I'm not surprised by USB-C. Here's your cockpit here. So you're not going to confuse this for a luxury vehicle, nor is it trying to be, but you know, it does have a digital display. You know, it is a classy vehicle. And it's a well-done vehicle. So I love the drive mode selector there with the buttons. That saves a ton of space. You know, back here you don't have a ton of storage, but you do have, you know, the house outlet there. And again, you have temperature controls right here. LED lighting here. You have vents here. Looking in the back, like this is an 8-seater vehicle. You know, and I like this layout actually. I know a lot of people like captain's chairs, but I have pretty decent leg room here. Oh, these seats do slide forward and back, so that's pretty cool. And you have a lever here, so you don't have to reach under the seat. That's dope. The floor is pretty flat here, so you could sit 3 adults across. So getting 5 in here is not bad. Closing the door feels very solid. I like the faux stitching here. Again, this is not trying to be a luxury vehicle, so you don't have shades here. But this is a big, solid door. Good glass, great visibility, very simple here. This is an automatic window. This is soft touch. I like the stitching in here, and this has Bose audio. You have a grab handle here. Just like a very, very good vehicle for utility is what I will say. And even climbing out is not that bad with that running board. And so we're gonna do this number here, and then I'm gonna climb into the back. Now, this wouldn't be for people who are not super spry, but so sitting back here, you know, you don't have a ton of room, but quite honestly, I mean, I could sit in this middle seat, you know, I could sit in this seat, and headroom is not that bad. You know, you don't have a panel roof in here or anything like that, but you know, you have LED lighting here, you have vents here. So like 3 adults back here would be a little bit tight. This is best as a 7-passenger vehicle for adults, but I would say, you know, if you're in a pinch, you could fit 8 adults in here. You have USB-C charge ports. You know, other than that, it's a hard plastic affair with no controls and no microphones for Bluetooth or talking to someone in the back of the vehicle. Again, this isn't a luxury vehicle. Sitting back here, you do have some windows, but they kind of sit behind you. So, you know, not the most open layout, but it works. It serves a purpose. I would like to see like a handle here just to move this seat forward, but you can pull this guy and the seat goes and the entire seat flips up. So that's one thing I love about Chevy is that not only does the seat flip up, but it can also slide back and forth, because I know in the Armada in the past, the only option you had was to flip the seat up. You had pretty set leg room for the second row, and the third row just sat up so high it was useless. So I would 100% get a Suburban over an Armada, just because of the layout and everything like that. But this headliner is nice, you know, it's pretty standard affair. You got to get in the front seat and check that out. So same thing here. These doors feel substantial. I don't want to door ding the car next to this one, but you have lane keep assist here. I mean, this door is pretty solid. Two-part memory seating, excuse me. You have a kick plate here. These front windows are automatic. You have an automatic seat here. Step up isn't too bad. You know, getting in and out of this vehicle is not going to be a problem, even if you're a big person. I love the seating position here. You're kind of sitting up, like not super, super high over the hood, but enough to where I feel like I could comfortably drive this vehicle and have an idea of where the front end is. Like some vehicles, you're a little bit recessed to where you just don't know and you have to have cameras. I don't like that. Your parking brake is here. It looks like you have four-wheel drive on this vehicle. You have automatic start stop here. I mentioned lane keep assist, traction control here. You at least have you have forward collision warning here. Looks like you have radar cruise control, so that's pretty dope. Windshield wiper stock is here. And your headlights are here as well. So the controls are minimal on this steering wheel. And again, you notice this is not a luxury vehicle, but what I love about this vehicle is that you have the digital display, but a lot of this stuff could definitely be trim dictated. You have wireless charging here. You have heated seats here. You know, your temperature controls are pretty straightforward. This is a nice size screen. Like, I like that it's a little bit recessed. It doesn't look like it's just like stuck in and bolted into the dash. I love this touch here with the leather. It's always interesting to see this little cubby in here for Chevy. But yeah, these seats are comfortable. Like, they're not super grippy, but they have the right amount of grip, the right amount of cushion, and the right amount of firmness, and they're gonna last for a while. So I really, really like that. You have LED lighting, as I mentioned. This vehicle does have OnStar, like most GM vehicles, and you also can have Wi-Fi in here. Another thing I'll mention, sorry about the sun, but I like this door in that you have this faux wood inlay. I think that's nice. It's a nice touch. It kind of breaks it up and gives it a touch of class without doing too much. As far as the exterior of the vehicle goes, again, I love the chrome that frames these windows and this black paneling here. I think it's just well done. Like, it's you're not doing too much. It's not polarizing. This is to be a mass selling large SUV, and Chevy did a great job with it. You know, the grille is pretty straightforward Chevy. I love the DRLs here. You can see those. They're not doing too much. It's not trying to have like a light bar across the front and look like an EV. You have a ton of air that's able to come in here. Standard reflectors for such a large vehicle. The Wagoneer has those as well. The ride on this one's going to be better. Handling may be a little bit better on this one because these large tires. But honestly, I prefer the wheels on this Suburban. All right, so hopping into the Wagoneer, one thing I'll say is I don't feel like the doors feel as substantial. And this door handle is a little funky in that you got to kind of give it a tug. It definitely doesn't feel as solid as the Suburban. Wouldn't say cheap, but like it's, I don't know, you got to pull a little harder than I'd like. So there is a little bit of a step up, and I can't open this door too wide. You don't have a kick plate in here, but before I get in, this door looks very, very nice. It has an Alpine sound system. The buttonry is placed very well. Like the stitching and little soft armrest here is nice. I like the stitching in here. So this is a good looking vehicle. You also have this window shade here. This is not like a limited model or anything like that, but this is a big door, so getting in and out of this vehicle won't be a problem, even if you're a big person. I would like for the grab handle to be a little bit higher. You can adjust these seats back and forth, so I like that. You know, these have a little bit more contouring. They're a little bit more, I don't know, upscale looking because they're perforated and you have the stitching in here. They are comfortable. They're a little bit slick, but like they have a good amount of cushion and firmness in them. So you could sit in these for a long time. A lot of this stuff could be trim based, so I wouldn't put too much weight on it. But the overall design of this vehicle is more upscale. Look at that large display here. You got the piano black, the faux wood. You have a flat bottom steering wheel, so we'll look at that stuff in a second here. And also the placement of these vents here, so that's definitely a luxury touch. Not going to put too much weight on the sound system again because it is something that can be dictated by trim. I'm not super familiar with the trims here, but this door handle right here, this kind of feels cheap if I'm being honest. It's kind of an odd placement. I kind of like the one where it's kind of in the door. You just press it. And this door does seem a little bit more flat and doesn't have the depth of the GM, but, you know, hard plastic down here. When you close it, you know, it feels solid, closes well. But again, this handle right here, you also have controls down here. You have heated seats back here. Again, that could be a function of trim. You know, you have controls for your HVAC, which is nice. I like the vents here. I wonder how effective they are. I kind of prefer the ones in the roof, but you have a massive panoramic roof, so that kind of changes things in this vehicle. I like the options for the charge port. I mean, I could have just done with USB-C. Like, everything's heading that direction, and even if you didn't have USB-C cables, if you can afford a vehicle like this, you can upgrade. Good charge port options. You have map pockets here. Again, you have a hard back, so this is more of a luxury kind of design in this vehicle. Here's a look at the back seat. I don't feel like there's as much room back here. Again, that's the case with a lot of luxury cars. I like the sunroof, but that could be a trim thing. You have a mic here and a mic back there. And so this is a Wagoneer Series 2. I have no idea what that means. So to get into the back seat of this vehicle, you have a button up here that you can press, and that kind of slides forward. So that gives you an ample amount of space here. Stepping into the back. Again, I feel like it's a little bit easier in this vehicle. The roof line is definitely lower to me. So, you know, I'm kind of sitting up, and I do have space, but still, with the sunroof and everything, you're going to lose some of that. But a lot of natural lighting coming in here. That's pretty dope. Again, you have a microphone here. You have a light here, which isn't going to come on. It's kind of in a power saver mode, so that's cool. You have a hook here. And honestly, the window placement here is kind of dope because you definitely have more visibility back here. And the charge port options are nice. So you have USB-A and C. And then you have this air vent right here, which is nice placement because you can't place it in the roof when you have all these glass panels. I definitely like the placement of the windows in here a bit better. These seats are comfortable. You do not have as much space back here, I don't feel like. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. It's a similar amount of space, but you are definitely, feels like you're sitting up higher and the space is a little bit more confined. Width-wise, it's kind of the same situation. You don't want to have 3 adults back here. You could do it and make this an 8-seater. This is kind of what I expected. You know, this vehicle has a more luxurious design, but I feel like the quality may not be there like the Suburban. Things look nicer, but yeah, I don't know how well they'll hold up. All right, so stepping out before I get into the driver's seat, as you can see, this is black trim here instead of chrome. I mean, it looks good. Like, they still frame the windows with the chrome on the top. It kind of pops with the wheels on the bottom. So the design of this vehicle is very handsome, and it's going to be mass appealing, and, you know, people are going to know there's money spent here. Again, I do not like that handle. Have an electronic seat here. This door is more the same. Like, it's a large SUV, so the door is going to open pretty wide. You're going to have electronic seats. All these windows are automatic. That's nice. You do have a heated mirror. I was about to say, I'd be surprised if you didn't. You got the Alpine system in here. This is nice and grippy. I will say that. This running board, you're not going to slip off of this thing. So stepping in is not that bad. And you even have a grab handle here, which you don't see on a lot of vehicles. A lot of times they'll have a grab handle on this side. I do like the framing of the vents over here. I like this stitching here. You have your electronic parking brake. You can adjust the pedals here. I like this more than the stock in the Suburban as far as the headlights go. And I think sometimes that seems minor, but in my opinion, it's kind of not, because that's something you interact with a lot and it can get annoying. So I always like a dial for my headlights and my fog lamps and that kind of thing. This is a good ride height too. I do feel like I'm sitting a little bit up over the front hood. I can see, you know, where the end of the vehicle is a little bit better. So I love the seating position here. I feel like there's more cushioning in these seats. You know, this definitely, looking at the seating, like if you told me I was in an Infiniti or a luxury vehicle, I would believe you. So the seats, the quality of the seats is definitely better in this vehicle. They're a bit more comfortable. That's still not going to sway me. I feel like the Suburban is definitely going to hold up a bit better. You know, your start stop button is right here. I just feel like this looks cheap here. They could have simplified this design. It's good placement though. Looks like you have radar cruise control here. You have 360 cameras in here. I like that this is a flat bottom steering wheel. I feel like it gives you more room, even though that's not necessary in a large SUV. You have an all digital display in here. So when you open the door, like, it kind of like lights up and does a little dance. It's not doing it now, but this screen is very nice. It's integrated very, very well. So the design and cohesion of this compartment, of the interior of this vehicle, is very, very nice. Like, it's better than the Suburban, I will say that. It could be a trim thing. This piano black definitely looks better. Wireless charging in here. Your drive mode selector is a knob. That's fine. I like that. You know, you have lane keep assist. You have traction control in here. So, you know, similar amenities to the Suburban. And you have more. You have a ton of, you know, cubby options in here like the Chevy Suburban. I didn't look at this in the Suburban, but it's large as well. They really outdid themselves with the charge port options. So that's pretty dope. Looks like you do have some capacitive buttons in here. So if you're not a fan of that, that could be problematic. You have buttons for these modes here. So you can go into tow mode, snow mode, that kind of thing. And then on this side, I think you can adjust the ride height. I don't think you're going to confuse this for a Lexus, you know, a large Lexus SUV or like an X7, but I see what they were trying to do here, and they did it well.